had request to look at that. You know, chapter 2, where Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. He can't get his guys to tell him what was the dream and then the meaning. He said, I think you guys are ripping me off, telling me what it means. You tell me what I saw first. Well, they can't do that. They said, no one's ever asked that. And he said, I am. And no, they said, we can't do it. Okay, he said, you can't live. Well, that really gave moment to them. But don't forget, Daniel and his three friends, Meshach, Tirshak, and Abednego, they are also involved. So they're next going to get it too as well. And so he goes to the king, give us some time. And he comes to his three friends and said, pray, brothers, pray. So they pray, and God gives the vision. And he shows them, you saw this great image with a head of gold, and shoulders and body, chest of silver, right? And then you saw the sort of stomach and that out of copper, and then the legs and the toes were out of iron and clay. There you got it. And then you saw a stone cup without hands come down, and next thing you know, it fell on the feet and it crushed the whole thing from the head all the way down. And it grew and grew and grew and filled the whole earth. He said, you got it. What's it mean? He said, you, O Nebuchadnezzar, you're the head. You got it most put together, unified, most valuable, all that sort of stuff. But after you shall come another kingdom, and it is divided. 2 arms, 2 shoulders. Medo-Persia. Now, the liberals don't like that. They say, no. There's a difference between Media and Persia. Split them apart. But you lose it then. And and then that is followed by another one. And later on in chapter 7, Daniel has a dream, which brings up the same sort of 4 parts. And that one is one in which, in the 7th chapter, they see one animal after another coming up out of the sea, which is the nations are just riled up before him. And the first was like a lion that had the wings of an eagle. And I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground so that it stood up on 2 feet like a man. And had a heart of a man. A heart of man was given. Oh, that's old Neb again. And then after him was a second beast, a bear, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth. They had taken Medo-Persia, had taken 3 countries by now. And then after that, I saw another beast that looked like a leopard. And on its back it had 4 wings. Now, this all seems bizarre. How can you have birds and animals and men mixed up? Well, just look at the art. This is what it is. I used to take classes into the Oriental Institute in Chicago, and they had one of the great finds there was this huge beast, which was lion-like, that had wings on it and had the head of the king of Assyria. It was one of 2. It weighed over 50 tons. They had to break out the wall and bring it in and then rebuild the wall. And anyway, when they tried to put it on a truck, it crushed the truck. And so, one of the boatloads sank with his stuff on, so it's down at the bottom of the ocean. But that one they did get back home. So it's not bizarre. This is according to the glyptic art of that day. And he said, this beast had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule. 4 heads? Well, first of all, the guy's over everything, then he divides it up. Well, it's Alexander, and I don't care whether you're Jewish or whether you're Roman Catholic, or whether you are Protestant, or you are evangelical, they all say that's Alexander the Great, and he gave it to his 4 generals. Right, you got that. But and then there comes his 4th beast, and it's nondescript. It is so horrible they can't even describe it. And while he's talking about it, has large iron teeth, and it has 10 horns. Horn here is always symbol of power or symbol of nation. And then a little horn comes up and knocks off 3 of the 10 horns. And everyone thinks that little horn is Antichrist, or at least they come close to that. Well, then, and he details that a little bit more in chapter, the rest of 7, and chapter 8, he talks about the ram and the goat. Well, then Daniel goes to prayer in chapter 9, and he is having devotions. This is a great section. And I, Daniel, verse 2, 9:2, understood from the scriptures, according to the word of the Lord given to Jeremiah the prophet, that the desolation of Jerusalem would last 70 years. Look at this. He understood from the scriptures. He's not waiting for a church council to say what's in the canon. There's progressive recognition. So it's less than 100 years after Jeremiah's written. He's having devotions in it, and he understands from 2 chapters, which we could point to in Jeremiah, that it's going to be 7 years. And he said, Lord, as I figured out, I mean, we were brought here in 605, 606, somewhere around there. It's now 536. He says, it's time we're going home. And so he said, I'm going to plead with you in prayer and petition and sackcloth and ashes and fasting. And so he prays a beautiful prayer. 39 times he uses the first person plural. It is our sin, our confusion, our distress. We have done this. We, us, and our. 39 times. How do you pray? When you pray on behalf of the nation to which you come from. Listen to Daniel. Watch Daniel. Now, in verse 20 of chapter 9, while I was speaking and praying, confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and making my request. I mean, this man prayed 3 times daily. But he prays still this way, as an intercessor on behalf of himself and his people and his nation. While I was still in prayer, Gabriel, the man I'd seen in an earlier vision, came to me in swift flight about the time of the evening sacrifice. And he instructed me and said, Daniel, I've now come to give you insight and understanding. As soon as you began to pray, an answer was given, which I've come to tell you for your highly esteem. But he speaks of being hindered on the way, that there was a spiritual fight going on. And he said, now consider the message. 77s are decreed for your people. You want to, I've told you it'll be 70 years. So you want to know, is this it now? Will you come back now? Is this the answer to everything? No, he says, there are 70 more sevens that are given, decreed for your people. That's Israel, or Judah, and your holy city, that's Yerushalayim. To do what? 6 things. 6 infinitives. To finish transgression, put an end to sin. Thirdly, to atone for wickedness. Fourthly, to bring in everlasting righteousness. Fifth, to seal up the vision and prophecy. And 6, to anoint the most holy. Most holy what? We don't know. Most holy place, most holy one, could be either. We can't tell. So know and understand this. From the going forth the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. So here he is told you have 70 years, and that's coming from when you and your 3 buddies were taken in captivity. Now 536. Okay, but there's 70 times 7, 490 years yet to come. In a group of 7 times 7, that's 49, plus 62 times 7, which is 14, 6, 7, 42, 43, 434 years. And then after, there's a gap. For now, he says in verse 26, and after the 62 sevens, that is this whole period of 69 times 7, which brings us approximately up into the era of Messiah. Some say exactly. They try to argue for prophetic months of 30 days and years and leave out the account for leap years, and 0 doesn't have the years. Some say it brings us to 28, some to 33. Sir Robert Anderson, there is no indication. The only place this occurs is in the flood narrative of Noah, where it was 30 days. 5 months is 5 times 30 is 150 days. But why that should be normative in prophecy, I don't know. But what will happen afterward here, verse 26, he said, Messiah, the anointed one, the ruler comes. So the ruler comes, and he'll have nothing for himself. And the people of the, let's see, there's 62 sevens, and the anointed one will come and will have nothing. And the people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. So the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. So this somewhere about 30, and this in 70 AD. That leads to what we call a gap. This is the gap theory, that there is a gap between, because this word after, and this event breaks the succession of year after 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 year. How long is that gap? I think it continues to now. And he argues that there is the people, the ruler, who will come. This other ruler, I think, equals the Antichrist, the anti-Messiah. The war will continue to the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, 1 times 7, or 7 years. 7 years. But in the middle, 3.5, he will break the covenant. So he makes a covenant with Israel, and there's some kind of deal. Is that where he allows them to build the temple? Well, it must be, because he sets up the abomination of desolation here before that time, but then breaks it at 3.5. And then comes the end. And this leads into the millennium, mille, and millennium has two ends in it, not like the car that only has one. I really get upset as a teacher every time I pull up behind one of those cars, says the millennium, and it's spelled with one N. I want to get a red pencil. But at any rate, it's mille, thousand, and annum for the word year. We know the word annual, annum. So 1,000 years. And on a wing of the temple he will set up the abomination that causes desolation, until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. Now, that's what I think this passage entails. Oh my, the fight's over. And anyway, there's more. Now they want to know, where is the church in all of this, the believing community? And where is believing Israel in all of this? And frankly, the text doesn't say. But we do. This is called the pre-tribulation period. And the Lord comes back here. But that is an inference in the text. An inference. Others say, no, just before the great wrath. And the great wrath is here. And therefore there is a mid-trib. And others say, where'd you get that? There are so many that are suffering through the world. Why is it that Americans think that believers will not suffer? So they say there is a post-trib, which means the believers go up, meet the Lord, and come right back. Which is true. Look, I've got enough trouble from what I taught already. I don't want any of you on the day of the Lord's coming back to tell me on the way up, told you so. And anyway, we'll be changed, won't we? Yeah. So you probably won't get a chance to say it anyway. So I don't know. But the churches since 1830s has really been, I'd say the majority of believers are here at pre-trib. My good friend Jerry Jenkins and his buddy have published Left Behind. And Jerry's a personal friend, and we cared for their children when they were in Germany and things like that. I called Jerry when I was still president, and said, hey, Jerry, they made me president. I'm supposed to raise money. I mean, big money. And I said, I heard you've sold 60 million copies. So I said, any chance I can have lunch with you? I said, I'll pay. He said, no. He said, well, I have so many people beating down my door. So he said, no, let's not have lunch. I said, Jerry, I feel like I'm left behind. What are you going to do? You can't win all of them. A comment in the back. Yes, thanks.
Since you know how long the tribulation lasts, the first half, the second half, the whole thing, if you had a middle or end rapture, wouldn't you be able to calculate it then?
Since I don't know how long it lasts.
Well, we do know how long.
Yeah, it's 7 years and divided. The real big part is less 3.5 years. Then go ahead with the rest of your question.
So if you have a rapture that's either mid or pre-wrath or post, wouldn't you then be able to calculate exactly when the rapture would happen based on doctrine?
I don't think so. I don't think so. How will we know what deal is made between this world leader, anti-Mashiach, and Israel? I think that could be a secret treaty. It may need to be because of what's going to permit.
debate these scriptures? What's the purpose?
You sure don't look like a believer to me. I didn't convince him at all, but that's at least one answer. One answer. And for the mid-trib, it doesn't begin exactly on the 3.5 years. The intensive form is after the 3.5 years. How far? Don't know. Don't know. But there's enough there so that for alert people, you could say, boy, it really is close. It really is close. And you and I are getting signals like that anyway. Now. How do you know it didn't begin yesterday? I don't.
It could have.
I don't. It could. Could have. So what does the Bible say? Watch. Keep looking. But it doesn't say try to figure it out or set a date. I see that hand. Yes.
How do we know in verse 27 where it says he'll make a firm covenant with the many? How do we know that the many refers to Jews, that refers to Israel?
That's one of the arguments that comes here in the passage. No question who he is and the covenant that he'll make and the setting up of the abomination of desolation spoken of in the last verse. Who are the many?
I'm asking you.
Well, in good Jewish fashion, I turned it around. So what do you think? Yeah, do a paper on it. No, your question is too important to just throw away. So I think we have to, that's one of the things you tuck away in your mind and say, yeah, that's a question. That's important. Yes.
One of the things that I began to take counsel with for myself, not to sweat the small stuff, is that Yeshua said he was talking to his disciples and he was talking about his death. And he said, I told you these things so that when they happen, you will know. And so I've applied that to all of prophecy that hasn't yet been fulfilled, because we don't know when. As he said, even I don't know the day or hour, but it will happen. If you know the seasons, and the seasons are based on the biblical calendar, not the Gregorian calendar.
You sound like you have been snitching from my first class. And I stressed that and I said, the great principle is that there are two things that are given here to us in John 13. Jesus said, I've told you these things before they come to pass, one, so that when they do come to pass, you may know. History is the final interpreter of prophecy. Jesus said so. You got to count on it. Secondly, it points to him, not to our chart. He said that when it does come to pass, you may know that I am he. It is a vindication of Jesus, not our chart. You can't say, Kaiser had it right. You won't have it right either. Because it is so that we may know he is the one who knows the end from the beginning, Alpha and Omega, who calls the shot. And that's what Isaiah 40, 41, 42, 43 is saying. Well, with talking, yes.
The Old Testament also says that too. He said to Israel, so that you know that I am the Lord. These things have come to pass.
Who said that?
I don't know the prophets. There's a lot of scriptures.
Okay, good. Well, it's. I have one other great messianic text. I've got to do Isaiah 52, 13 through 50 through 12. I've got to do that one with you.
How about Isaiah 63?
Yeah, that one too. But see that clock? I'm fighting it. 52. This is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 verses each. 5, 3 verses each. The middle is clearly going to be in the the 4, 5, and 6, which says, all we like sheep have gone astray. We've turned everyone to his own way. Listen, for ministering in the Jewish community,